We all have goals we want to reach. Personal goals, professional goals, financial goals, and sometimes it seems so easy. We set the goal, we do what it takes, and we achieve it. But then there are those other goals that we just can't seem to reach. Today, I'm going to share with you a formula to help you discover what goals are most important to you and then set yourself up for success at achieving them. A little hint, it's not what you think. Welcome to the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Cooper Gillingham. For over 25 years, I've strived to use my nurse credentials to find work that fit my lifestyle. Whether it was raising my 4 children and 3 fur babies, traveling the world, or moving to Mexico and living on the Caribbean Sea. Sometimes I succeeded and sometimes I failed, but I always learned from the experience. Now, I want to help you by sharing what worked and what didn't work. There are so many opportunities out there for nurses today. The Stay at Home Nurse Podcast will inspire and equip you to have a nursing career that is meaningful and supports your lifestyle. Now let's get started. I recently did a continuing education presentation for case managers on client and employee engagement. Afterwards, the feedback I received was that this would be helpful on a personal level as well. So I took another look at it, and I realized this has been the key to my successes and the reason for my failures. Today, I want to share this information with you. I call it Why Care. Now, full confession, I didn't make these up, but I did combine 2 principles, tweak them a little bit, and create what I feel is a formula for success. Studies are clear that the more engaged a person is, the more likely they are to be creative and overcome challenges when they arise. Instead of giving up, they find a way around or through obstacles that stand in their way. They also are more likely to take action. This is important because without taking action, nothing changes. For example, we all know that to lose weight, we need to maintain a healthy diet and move more. But that knowledge alone does not produce weight loss. We can add motivation by listening to an expert who inspires us to take action, but that still won't get us the results we want. Only when we actually take consistent action do we get results. Taking action is the key. So what keeps us from taking action on some things, but causes us to take action on others? That's where the Why Care formula comes in. First, we start with the why. Why do we want to reach this goal? Is it because someone else is telling us to do it? That's not very likely to work. Or is it because we want the benefit? This goes deeper than a surface level want or a surface level desire. Let's go back to weight loss. Everyone wants to be at healthy weight. There's plenty of knowledge out there. You need to ask yourself why, and then ask yourself why again, and keep asking until you get to that deep emotional why. Let's look at that weight loss example again. Let's say we want to lose weight for our class reunion. Why? Well, because we want to look good when we see all those people we haven't seen for years. Why? Because one of the girls that we will be seeing used to make fun of us and call us chubby cheeks. Now we're getting down to that emotional level, that level of actually feeling pain of being overweight, and that level of being able to feel the pride of walking in a nice dress, knowing that you look better than you've looked in years. That is why when we have a strong emotion attached to our goal, we are more likely to actually achieve that goal. It hits us on an emotional level, not just an intellectual level. If you can't get to that emotional level, that may be why you're not successful at reaching that goal. It just isn't that important to you right now. That doesn't mean that it won't be important to you later. You may be able to be successful with this goal at a later time when you can actually get to it on an emotional level. Now let's look at the example of my business. Why would I get up at 4:45 every morning when I loved sleeping in? Why would I sacrifice time with my friends and family? Why would I take a writing class? Why would I spend every morning, evening, and weekend researching and writing? Why, once I had a successful book, would I continue to grind away at creating a business instead of just being happy with the book? Because I had a why. Actually, I had several whys. I wanted control of my time. I wanted control of my income. I wanted freedom to live anywhere in the world. I wanted freedom to travel. And I wanted to make an impact on my tribe, those people that cared about what I cared about. Okay, surprise! This podcast has an activity associated with it. I would like you, if you're able to, that is, if you're not like in your car driving or doing something like that, to stop and think. Pause the podcast and think about a goal that you have not been able to achieve. This can be a career or a personal goal. It can be physical, financial, spiritual, any goal. Ask yourself why that goal is important to you. And then keep asking why until you feel it on an emotional level. Now you're getting somewhere. Okay, pause the podcast and do this quick activity. I'll be right here for you when you're ready to start back up again. Okay, so how did that go? Were you able to get on an emotional level with your why? If not, maybe it's time to set that goal aside until you have a strong enough why and pick another goal. Keep doing this until you find a goal that is worth working on. The why is so important because we use it to energize ourselves, motivate ourselves, inspire ourselves, and keep us motivated. Sometimes it's easy to get motivated, but it's hard to stay motivated. Also, it'll provide clarity. When you have 1,000 different directions that you can go in or multiple choices to choose from, by knowing what your why is, it'll help you to pick the best choice for right now. Also, it encourages us to remove barriers, work through those barriers, or go around those barriers when they occur, and they will occur. Okay, now that we have our why, let's move on to the care. CARE stands for connection, affirmation, responsibility, and environment. While the why is the motivation and the inspiration, the care builds on this with the tools needed to succeed. Okay, so let's look at that care. C, connection. Connection is to the cause, to something greater than ourselves, and to others. For example, I'm sure you've seen the Fight Like a Girl t-shirts supporting women with breast cancer. This brings together a bunch of women fighting one particular disease, and they're on a team. They're not on their own. They're part of something bigger than themselves. Another example is something like Weight Watchers, or support groups, or Facebook communities. There are so many Facebook groups out there where people can meet other people like themselves. All of a sudden, they're not alone. They're with a team. They're all in this together. Now, many people are not extroverts, and they're not comfortable being part of a large group. In that case, they may have an accountability partner, a coach, a small mastermind, or a small club or group that they belong to. Just something to know that they are not alone in their effort. And in a small group, they may be able to connect on an emotional level when appropriate, which can be much more supportive and much more likely to lead to success. Going back to my example when I was creating a business, I joined several virtual masterminds, and this is where I would get together with other people who were trying to start an online business. Nobody I knew had successfully done that, and I needed to be around other people who were like me. Something else I did that was a huge game changer was attending a conference. Actually seeing people that were achieving what I wanted to achieve was a game changer. I got to see real live people who had done what I wanted to do. All of a sudden, it came to life for me, and it made that goal so much easier to achieve. Being around successful people is important. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, according to Jim Rohn. So if you want success in a goal, start hanging around people who are achieving that goal or who have already achieved that goal. This is why Weight Watchers and other groups are so successful. You realize you're not alone, and you connect with others that are on the same journey as you are. Okay, moving on. The A in CARE is for affirmation. You need to recognize what you're doing right. Now, you can recognize that for yourself. You could keep a journal and every evening sit down and write all the accomplishments that you've made for the day, everything positive that you've done to get closer to reaching your goal. You could have a habit tracker where you mark down each day that you accomplished something towards reaching your goal. For example, if one of your goals is to lose weight and every day you walk 20 minutes, you would keep track and you'd make a little mark on your calendar or in your journal for every day that you did that, trying to get as many days in a row and not breaking the chain. Another way that you can get affirmation is an accountability partner. This is somebody that you check in with on a regular basis to let them know how you're doing at achieving your goals and working towards achieving your goals. This can be somebody who has the same goals as you. Maybe you both want to walk that 20 minutes a day, and at the end of each day, you call each other or text each other and let the other person know that yes, you've completed your goal. Another way to get affirmations and accountability is to pay for it. Paying for a coach or an accountability group puts things on a whole nother level. Now that you're paying for it, you have the accountability as well as the affirmation. The affirmations when you're actually doing what you're supposed to be doing, and that accountability of, wow, I better do this because I'm paying for it. When I was starting my business, my affirmations came through emails, website visits, and sales. When I got an email from somebody telling me that my product had helped them, that made me feel really good, and it affirmed that what I was doing, I was on the right track. Also, website visits. When I saw people would come to the website and the number kept going up and up and up, I knew because I was getting traffic to my website, the information I had on it had to be good information that people were getting value from. And also sales. As my sales increased, I realized it was word of mouth. People were happy with what they were getting, and they were telling their friends. This, to me, was affirmation, again, that I was on the right track. Okay, moving on to our R, responsibility. Having a coach, an accountability partner, a group, etc., can only take you so far. You need to take responsibility for showing up and doing what it takes to succeed. For example, I have a business where I help people to pass an exam. Now, I can teach you the information, but I can't learn it for you. I have found the people that are most successful in passing are those who actually take responsibility for their learning and see my resources as a tool and not as a, if I buy it, I will pass. Going back to the goal of me starting my own business, I had to take responsibility. I didn't have a boss telling me when I needed to show up for work. I had to take responsibility for discovering what I needed to learn, who I was going to learn it from, for paying for that education, for showing up and actually learning, and for doing the work. When you have your own business, there's nobody telling you that you're late for work. There's nobody telling you that you didn't get all your work done. You have to be 100% responsible and take responsibility for your goals. Of all of the why care, the R for responsibility can be the hardest because we have to show up. We have to do the work. It's not planning, it's not thinking. We have to show up and we have to do it ourselves. If you're not getting the results that you want, you need to ask yourself a few questions. Do I really want blank, whatever your goal is? And how much am I willing to do, change, or give up to achieve that goal? Am I willing to assume the discomfort of doing things differently? Remember, ultimately, it is your responsibility. Okay, and now moving on to our last point, E for environment. What do I need to succeed, both physically and emotionally? By setting up an environment for success, we greatly increase our chances of succeeding. Let's take that dieting example again. If we want to eat healthy, don't bring junk food or unhealthy food into the house. By setting up our environment so that we don't have easy access to things that will sabotage our success, we will help ourselves to succeed. If we decide that we want to move more, do we need a gym membership? Do we want to buy equipment for our home? Do we just need walking shoes? If my goal is to change jobs, is there a course or training that I need to go through? If I have a financial goal, do I need a budget? If so, I do highly recommend YNAB, which I talked about more in episode 25. I'll have a link to the episode as well as YNAB in the show notes. Okay, going back to my example of when I was starting my business. When I was starting my business and it was still a side hustle and I was working full-time, I would prepare the night before by having everything I needed to get started in the morning. Remember, I was getting up at 4:45, so I didn't need to do anything extra. I needed to make sure that all I had to do was walk to my space and I had everything there waiting for me. I had a dedicated workspace so that when I was in that workspace, I was working. I bought a new computer. I knew I needed a computer that had a lot of storage that would hold all the information that I needed to write my book. I also took some courses. There were things that I needed to learn. And I made sure I had all of the tools that I would need to make it easier to produce every day. Whether that was note cards, index cards, whatever I needed, I made sure that I had everything there and ready for me. And that, my friend, is why care. So, why does why care work? Because it provides the why, the emotional inspiration that you need to really discover what goals you should be working towards. And the care builds on that foundation for success. Here's a quote that I like that kind of sums it up. This is from Mark Miller. Success is not found in a man's hands. It is the heart that makes all the difference. You've already completed the hard emotional part with the why exercise that we did. Now, go through the care and see what you're lacking. Do you have a connection? If not, brainstorm some ideas to create a connection. How can you incorporate affirmations? Ask yourself the responsibility questions. Do I really want this goal? How much am I willing to do, change, or give up to achieve it? And am I willing to assume the discomfort of doing things differently? And lastly, what do you need to change to create the environment that you need to succeed? I would love to hear how you're using this framework to reach your goals. Did you know we have a Facebook group dedicated to this podcast? Search for the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast and request to join. I would love for you to post in there how you're using this framework to reach your goals. Not on Facebook? You can send it to me via email at hello@thestayathome.nurse.com. I really want to know how this framework helps you to reach your goals. That's a wrap for this week's episode. I can't wait to meet with you again next week. Until then, adios from beautiful Puerto Aventuras, Mexico.